All right, everyone, welcome. We had a minor technical issue. So, welcome everybody again. My name is Ababa Risa. I am a professor and director of the high school at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. We have an exciting panel for you. The session is on emerging careers within information security. And I'm not sure how many of you thought that as an high school student or graduate, your career option include information security. Hopefully this session will inspire you to consider these options. So we have 3 excellent speakers. They will each introduce themselves first. We also have some discussion questions for them to answer. And we will have time for you, the audience, to participate in an interactive discussion as well. So you can raise any questions. Please put those questions in the chat, and we will answer at the end of the session. So I'm gonna ask Brandy, our first speaker, to introduce herself. Brandy?
Always unmute.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Brandy Loveday Chesley, and I currently work in vulnerability management for a New York State agency. I got my start at SUNY Albany, actually. I do live in New York State, and I came into information security from the information school. Actually, it was library and information science. The information security classes didn't come until after I had graduated. So I actually went back to school and got a certificate of advanced study in information security and policy. I cobbled together my own program. I'm dating myself here for the SUNY people in the very beginning. But I have been in information security now for about 6 years. I moved from programming to change management, which is where our information security program started, and have been in it ever since. So I really enjoy it, and I hope that you can find a way through information science into information security. There are numerous paths that you can take. And if you have any questions from me particularly, I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise, I will go ahead and turn it over to Ole.
Great, thank you, Brandy. So my name is Ole Villitsen, and I'm currently I think my official title is a senior cyber threat hunt analyst, working for IBM Threat Intelligence, IBM X-Force Threat Intelligence. What all that means is it's called a cyber threat intelligence analyst. I spent most of my career actually in the government as an intelligence analyst, but later went back to school and graduated from the University of Tennessee's School of Information Science in 2015, where I studied research data management, and then went to work for a couple of years at Carnegie Mellon University before I joined IBM and switched roles entirely into cybersecurity and information security. And so my job is essentially twofold. One is I provide intelligence support to incident response investigations for clients who have experienced a cyber attack of some sort. So what that means is I do a lot of research to try and identify who the threat actor is that had conducted the attack, and then find additional indicators that would help support the investigation into finding out the nature of the attack and how widespread that attack is and so forth. I also spend a lot of my time what we call hunting for threat actor activity and their indicators, things like IP addresses, domains, files, and the hashes of those files and so forth. And then and do that using a variety of tools. Some of them are proprietary to IBM, some are commercial, and a lot, frankly, are actually openly available. A lot of nonprofit and even for-profit organizations make their tools openly available. I find that data, and then I ingest and curate that data in a hypergraph database. And that's one of the offerings that we have for our clients and customers. And with that, I'll then pass it over to Unal.
Thank you, Oli. First, thank you, Abebe, for inviting me to this event. Unal Tatar, I'm an assistant professor at State University of New York at Albany at the College of Emergency Preparedness, Homeland Security, and Cybersecurity, maybe one of the longest named colleges. And it's an I school. I'm teaching and researching on cybersecurity for over 17 years. And my PhD is engineering management, bachelor's in computer engineering, and master's in cryptography, applied mathematics. As I said, I'm working in this field for over 17 years. And I spent around 10 years in the National Cybersecurity Research Institute in Turkey. During this time, I worked in the first half of my tenure in National Cybersecurity Research Institute. I worked on technical projects such as penetration testing, secure system design, and vulnerability analysis. In the second half, I built my expertise and took role in capacity building and strategic planning research projects, such as devising the national cybersecurity strategy. And I also served as the head of the National Computer Emergency Response Team of Turkey for 3 years. And during this time, I also had several international engagements. I worked for NATO Center of Excellence Defense Against Terrorism as an academic advisor. My roles at this position was guiding the curriculum development on terrorist use of cyberspace and organizing international workshops on this topic. And I also participated in and developed scenarios for NATO cyber defense exercises and crisis management exercises. And more recently, I worked with NATO Combined Joint Operations from the Sea Center of Excellence to conduct a cyber risk analysis of the maritime domain. Research-wise, my research is on cyber risk analysis and cybersecurity decision-making from an interdisciplinary perspective. And my recent research topics are cybersecurity, capacity development, and risk quantification. And my recent projects are funded by National Security Agency, Department of Defense, and National Science Foundation. And I'm very interested in the applied research, applying these scientific methods and approaches and knowledge to the practical, to solve the practical problems. Yes, this is too much about me.
Thank you, Brandy, Ule, and Onel for your introductions. And now we're going to the first question for Brandy and Ule, just for them to react. So anyone of you can start. So how did getting information sciences degree help with your information career, security career, and/or day-to-day work? Anyone can take that. Yeah.
Okay, I'll jump in quick. I actually got into security because of my interest in information policy, particularly privacy. And to me, it seemed like it was a natural complement, which was funny because I actually had someone tell me that it wasn't. And to me, it seems a little counterintuitive. Security to me can help with privacy, if done properly. Obviously, you need to get the policy part on board along with the technical issues, but that's actually how I moved further into a more managerial, I suppose, and somewhat technical position in information security.
So as for me, I'll go ahead and jump in after Brandy.
Go ahead. Yep.
As for me, I can say without any hesitation that despite my background in intelligence work with the government, that I would not have been able to make the transition into cyber threat intelligence without having gone to the information sciences program at UT. And that's in large part because cyber threat intelligence and investigations is all about data storage and data retrieval. So much of that job is about where to find information, how to get it out of all sorts of different various databases that are out there, and then how to store your own data into our like the databases that we manage ourselves, a hypergraph database. Those fundamental tools and concepts that I learned while at UT made that transition into a more technical role as a cyber threat intelligence analyst possible for me. And frankly, I wouldn't have been able to do it without that. And also, one thing which I loved about the program and information sciences program at UT is a lot of the program is about learning how to learn. There's so much out there in terms of tools and ways of doing things and the different things that you can do with an information science degree that you can't learn at all, but you do learn how to learn about it. And with things changing in such a rapid way, especially in the information security field, learning how to get up to speed on a new tool, a new language, a new way of getting information, a new way of storing it is fundamental to being able to succeed in this field. So I can give just a few examples of things that I learned in the program that are really important in my day-to-day work. Jumping right into my job, a lot of the role there is about managing the information that we ingest into our database and knowing right off the bat how to tag information, how to create those relationships, the importance of it, how to select tags, the fundamental decision-making that goes into how to enrich information that you're going to store in a database. That was all extremely useful. The tools itself, one of the most popular tools that I found in research data management, a subfield of information science, is called OpenRefine. It's a tool that's used to clean data. We actually had a use case in a project that I worked on where we had an enormous amount of information from an organization's logs. And in order to clean that data up and get it into a very usable form where it could be very neatly organized and information retrieved from it, I showed how OpenRefine is a tool that could be used for that purpose, even though I don't know anybody had ever previously made the connection that OpenRefine could be a very useful tool when it comes to cleaning data that comes from an organization's, for example, their firewall logs or their SIM logs and that sort of thing. Using SQL in order to retrieve data from a relational database, learned how to do that. That was fundamental. Learning the basics of Python in order to retrieve information via tools and via APIs. That's where I learned how to use Python, was in the courses I took at UT. And this using things like Bash. I didn't actually learn how to use Bash when I was, the Bash shell when I was in school, but it was not a problem for me to learn how to use it very quickly and then be able to jump right into using it in my day-to-day job.
Thank you so much, Brandy and Ule. I think our members of our audience hopefully will now make those connections, right? So when you're in school, you don't really know how and when you're going to use some of the skills and knowledge you gain in these programs until you're actually on the job. And I think these perspectives are really important. So thank you again. So now I'm going to go ahead.
One second.
Yep.
I know Ole was he is very technical. He not was.
Yes.
He is very technical. I, however, am not.
Yes.
Yes. I actually have an English degree before I had my master's in information science. So I'm more of a managerial person. And the classes I took in my degree program, one of them was actually administration of information agencies. So that was very helpful, I think, in learning that even the technical people, you have to understand how to relay this information from a technical side to a business person. You have to be a translator of sorts to get through what needs to be understood so that you can do the best job for your employer. So I think, the managerial classes may be downplayed on some level, but there are a lot of technical skills and things that you need to understand. But you do not have to be technical to be in information security, although that's where a lot of the fun stuff is.
Thank you, Brandy. Absolutely right. So I think you're right that it shows, even the two of you shows kind of the spectrum, right? From technical to managerial or administration, information security, information policy areas. So thank you for that. Now I'm going to go to Professor Tatar for his reaction. Please type your questions into the chat. I see a couple of them. We'll get back to those. So Unal, so what are the in-demand information security skills today and hopefully in the near future?
I can answer this question with starting with the results of a focus group meeting we conducted with several people from academia and mostly from industry and government, and they had different levels from technical to managerial positions. We conducted this focus group meeting because we were, for a funded project, we were creating a curriculum for National Security Agency, a cybersecurity curriculum. And in this focus group meeting, it was kind of a requirements analysis. And we asked our participants, when you hire a new graduate, what are the most in-demand skills, or what are the most important skills you expect them to have? This is the question we asked, and we were expecting more technical answers about it, more technical aspects. And the top answer was, in this meeting, was communication skills, the good communication skills, and critical thinking skills and analytical thinking skills. These three were the top answers, and the oral and written communication skills was the top. And as I shared in my brief bio, I worked as a practitioner and then later as an academic. And when I was interviewing with people to hire them, and when we were creating our job postings, job descriptions, and still it's the same. One of the top qualifications is explain a technical cybersecurity issue to a non-technical audience. So instead of starting with technical skills, I just wanted to emphasize this. The qualifications, the soft skills a student can gain at their college study is the soft skills, and these stay with them throughout their life. And these are the most important skills they need, whatever they feel they work in, but especially in cybersecurity. Because in cybersecurity field, the strategic decisions are made at the top level, but the issue is mostly technical. So a good communication is required to make well-informed decisions. And people with technical expertise and good communication skills, which can explain a technical topic to a board member, are in very high demand. This is something I want to emphasize. Aside from I echo what Brandy said. This is a very broad field. Cybersecurity, information security field is very broad. It's not just technology. Technology is very important because all this field relies on technology, but it is more than technology. I want to share my screen to just show something very quick. I think you saw the cybersecurity domain map. This map is cybersecurity domain map and created by a subject matter expert. And I like this map to show how broad this field is. You can see that there are threat intelligence, which Oli shared is a very technical field. It might be very technical. On the other hand, some frameworks and standards. This is mostly about the establishing or auditing the processes at an organization. You need to know the cybersecurity concepts, but you don't need to apply them, but you need to assess the organizational processes or create organizational processes based on them. You see, there are security architecture and security operation areas, branches, which are very technical. But aside from them, we have governance, which are about policies, laws and regulations, and these type of things, which are also related, and people are also needed in these fields. So when we look at it, there are positions for everyone in information security and cybersecurity fields. If you are interested in it, if you are not a very technical person, getting a few technical courses to understand how it works and what it means, the foundational concepts, and then you can use your information science knowledge, such as information policy or information in organization. This kind of knowledge you gain in your undergraduate or graduate programs, then you can make easily switch to these fields. So these are some of the things I wanted to share with you. And in terms of technology, I can say that how computers work and how computer networks work is one of the very foundational things you need to know. And then on top of it, cyber defense technologies and cybersecurity technologies are very important to know for almost everyone. But I can say that this field is very applied, and it's really easy to make this transition from other domains. And considering the multidisciplinary nature of these issues, as I showed in this domain map, you need to consider such as the training and user education. This is people side of it. On the other side, laws and regulations and governance and policies, this is organizational side of it. So this is not just technology, people, process, and technology, and you need a holistic view. And information science programs, I believe, are one of the excellent venues to equip students with these skills.
Thank you so much, Unal. I totally agree with you. So information sciences is all about people, processes, and technology. Of course, it's about information, right? Information security is about information as well. So thank you for that. So I know, keep those questions coming. So I'm going to go back, because we have time, I'm going to go back to Brandy and Ule. Now I'm going to start with Ule this time. So what does the day-to-day work of an information security professional look like? It could be yours or a typical information security professional.
Thank you. Yeah, I can give definitely a good idea of what my day-to-day role is as a cyber threat intelligence analyst and what that looks like. And I like to divide it up into the concept of hunting and farming. Part of my day is hunting and part of my day is farming. From the hunting perspective, that's where I'm looking for what we call threat actors or cyber criminals, looking for their activity, looking for their indicators, looking for what their motivations are behind their attacks, why they're doing what they're doing, how to find them, and how to stop them. So a lot of that job is very investigative in that respect. A lot of that job also takes place when I'm supporting incident response investigations. So when there is an attack that has taken place, then looking for hunting for that particular threat actor, both inside the network, but inside the victim network, but also outside of the victim network, and where has this threat actor also done their activity elsewhere. And that's using a lot of the different tools that are out there. Some of them are proprietary, but some of them are also commercial and even openly available. So it does take a lot of knowledge in that respect in terms of the tools that are out there, and not just thinking of tools in terms of how to basically use a tool, but how to really use the advanced features of a tool and how to think about what, not so much what is this tool designed to do, but what can it do? And looking at how you can stretch a particular tool beyond what others have even envisioned its use for. And that can be a lot of fun because it takes a lot of creativity when it comes to doing things like that. The other side is the farming, and that's where I'm taking all the data, all the information that I've gathered, and then storing it in a way that makes it very findable, organized, and easy for myself and others to use. So that's what I call the farming aspect of the job. So that means recording the activity in a database, enriching it, tagging it. We call it modeling the data. I don't know where that term came from, but it's essentially the same thing as curating, which is more of an information science term. So a lot of time and energy spent curating data and creating relationships between the information that's in the data that's stored into this database. A lot of time is also spent writing. We spend a lot of time writing articles, both for public consumption. It's a very thriving market out there in terms, we call them blogs, which I think downplays the technical nature of these articles. It's really more that they're intelligence reports that are submitted for public consumption. And that's a way that we all give back to the cybersecurity community by taking the information we find and then making it public. So other organizations can then make use of that data, but also then writing articles for our customers and clients, and then writing reports for clients as well, specifically based on questions that they have or something that they specifically want more information on. So I guess I'd writing, hunting, farming, and writing are the big three things that I do on a daily basis. And it really is important to manage that time well, because you can spend all your time hunting, but then if you don't spend a little time farming on the side, all that work can evaporate very quickly because you haven't recorded it anywhere so that it can be used in the future and easily found again. So it really is important to balance the time and effort between those different aspects.
Thank you, Ule. Excellent points. I think the audience can see now the kind of things that you would think an information professional would do, right? So some of the examples you gave, I can see most of the members of the audience are doing them. So thank you. Brandy, same question. Yep.
My typical day, I work in vulnerability management. So I do a lot of scanning on infrastructure assets to find vulnerabilities, published vulnerabilities, obviously, that our tools know about. We also look for installed programs that should not be there. So from the user end, if it's not blocked, they will download things or add plugins that shouldn't be on a work computer. We're tasked with creating incidents or tickets, depending on whatever system you use, and reviewing the results of all those scans to ensure that your most critical vulnerabilities are addressed as quickly and as safely as possible. You can't just willy-nilly start throwing patches into your system. There is a process for that, but we report those results to the assigned groups so that they can work it into their plan to address the most heinous of those. Anything else, we work with other groups for our infrastructure to address those vulnerabilities in a timely fashion. I happen to work for New York State, so there are statewide policies for agencies to follow from our information security office that is an umbrella for every agency. You can be more strict, but you cannot be less strict in those policy applications. So we have to work with that, and I work with those teams. I also, for a time, worked in application security. We built a new application security program. So on those days, I would have dozens and dozens of emails from application developers on scanning their applications and addressing their vulnerabilities before it was put into test and before it was, pushed into production to be a problem for the agency. You have to address that. I can tell you that is a growing field for some of the people that may be programmers. Application security it's not as addressed as it should be, but it's slowly growing. I do a lot of documentation. As Ole said, if you don't document it, it didn't happen. You have to be able to communicate, as Unal said, to your team members, not only in just emails, but when you hire people and you're building your teams, you have to be able to train those people efficiently. So I am super strict about my documentation, and it sounds terrible, but I actually ask my employees to please write your documentation dummy style. I want anybody that comes in to be able to duplicate my process immediately. If they have questions, that is completely fine. But I want them to be able to hit the ground running and be able to read through that and understand what we're looking to do. So I look at documentation a lot and update our processes and policies as needed. We find tips and tricks to do troubleshooting. I document our troubleshooting processes. What did we do to fix this in case it happens again? Who do I contact to do this or to fix this? It's a lot of communication within our team and within other teams, helping to get things done. So it's depending on what you're doing, you have to get that done too.
Thank you so much, Brandy. Those are really excellent points. I agree with you that I think there are different players, right? So part of your job is probably coordinating the different players, as you said, right? So that is the managing part of your job. So absolutely, thank you. We're gonna go back, we're gonna go to the audience questions. So thank you, Amy, for the question. Anyone can react to this, by the way. So what courses and technologies do you need for cybersecurity?
I'll actually jump in there.
Yes.
I highly recommend, as a non-technical person,
Yes.
networking. You need to know networking. I'm not gonna lie, I'm terrible at it. I have to look up everything repeatedly because I don't work in it regularly. And if you don't work in it regularly, obviously it starts to fail on you. And looking things up is not a bad thing, but you need to understand the concepts behind all of that. Otherwise, you're jumping into the deep end, kind of like I did. And it becomes a little harder to learn, even though you're seeing some of this stuff. And if you happen to be a programmer, programming concepts, obviously take a basics in programming so that you can help your programmers look at their applications. Don't just depend on your tools. Constantly educate yourself. As Ole said, learning to learn is one of the biggest things. I've always been a self-motivated learner, and I honed my skills in learning to learn in my bachelor's and in my master's and my certificate of advanced study. You never stop learning to learn.
Totally. Thank you so much, Brandy. I know you, I totally agree with you. So thank you again. Ole or Una, would you like to add to that? Yep.
I'd just like to second what Brandy had to say. Definitely understanding the basics of networking, understanding the basics of programming is really important. You don't have to be a programmer with a computer science degree to succeed in this field, not at all, but understanding the basics of programming and understanding some scripting languages, whether it's Python or learning some SQL or R. The reason it's not really important which one is because learning one helps you learn the others, and you understand the basics of how these scripting languages, higher level languages work. And sometimes the most important thing is not necessarily being able to write them, but read them. So you can figure out what is this script doing here. I spend more of my time figuring out what a script is doing than I do writing them myself. So that understanding the basics of that from that perspective is important.
Yep. Thank you, Ole. Yep. Oh, no.
I received this question many times from my students, and I almost exactly give the same answers what Brenda and Oli said. Honestly, this is the same. Networking is the most important thing, because if you know how the different components in a in the cyberspace interacts with each other, how it works, you can understand the anomalies and you can understand the tools you need to use to prevent cyber attacks or detect cyber attacks. So this is one of the core knowledge you need. And again, as Oli said, programming skills are important, but you don't need to be a programmer, but at least you need to understand how a program works, the algorithmic thinking, and also being able to read a written script. These are really important skills.
Thank you so much, Una. I agree. So to answer, Amy, your second question, I think these days, there are programs at high schools that are fully online. You should have enough in terms of choice. So I think I don't think there is a lack of options for you. So I'm going to go to the next. I hope we answered your question.
Can I answer that real quick?
Go ahead. Yep.
If you're an online learner, even in your program or outside of your program, because obviously I am not in school anymore, thankfully. But there are dozens and hundreds of resources online that you can find to help you supplement your formal education. I personally have tried TryHackMe. Actually has a really great fundamentals for networking. It's gamified. There's INE. These are they have some starter passes that are free, but there are so many resources out there. And, anybody that's on here, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. I can share resources and point you to some other people as well. But online learner or not, you can find something to help you get where you want to go, or help you figure out where you want to go.
I want to just add to that, because you really hit the nail on the head on that. There are so many resources out there. And one thing which I did, which really helped to learn about networking, learn about cryptography, learn about all the various fundamentals of cybersecurity, was pursue some certifications that are out there. It's very controversial on whether they're needed and how useful they are. But I like to take the perspective of it's all about what you're using them for. And for me, I use them as a way to organize my learning around the full variety of fields that are out there. So learn a little bit about cryptography, learn a little bit about networking and so forth, so that I had that fundamental baseline for all these different things that I had not learned about in previous lives and studies and so forth. So that's an option as well if you're interested.
Thank you, Brandy and Ole. Yep, absolutely. So I'm going to go to the question by Masha. So what are some options in the information security field for those who are currently in LIS programs or for recent graduates? These are options, right, in the field. I think that I have a similar question, but go ahead, Brandy. Yep.
You can get almost into anything, to be honest. It depends on you. You need to figure out what you like to do. I knew that I just wanted an information security, so I was already in a state agency and they were starting a program. I was thrilled just to be asked, because it really fit into where I wanted to go. And it happened to be, we were scanning all of our assets. So if you want to be a vulnerability analyst, it may be called a security analyst position. Unfortunately, there is no standardization of names in a lot of ways. People have different names for the same thing. But, really determine what you're looking for, and that should help you figure out where to look. Then you would try, I think, just keyword searches. Figure out what these people could call your job. Write them down or type them out and have a list and try to figure that out. But there are a lot of entry level, and as Ole said, the certs are controversial, and they're becoming more controversial, to be honest. Personally, mine, I achieved my certified information security manager thanks to my experience at my agency, because you have to have experience to have this cert. It's not an introductory cert, okay? Anybody asking you for a CISM for an entry-level position, run far, far away, okay? Because you have to have 5 years, okay? 5 years of experience or education to get that cert. That is not entry-level. So entry-level is 0. Find somebody willing to work with you and help you find your way and enjoy your job and give you that experience. Because the good ones will want to mentor you and build you.
Thank you, Brandy. Excellent points. I agree. So anybody want to add to that, or want me to go to Masha? I hope we answered your question. So we're going to go to the next question by Robin. And I think I can answer this one and then the others would add. Do you have to have a degree in LIS to work in information sciences? Obviously, this conference was organized by the iSchools. So the iSchools want you to get an information sciences degree to work in the field, right? One, because some of these schools have accredited programs and some jobs or positions require accredited, graduation. You have to graduate from accredited programs. So, and I totally, encourage you to explore the different options you have. There are several schools, probably in the region you are. I don't know where you are from, but definitely consider applying to or enrolling in a program at an iSchool. That will, as you have heard from Ole and Brandy and Unal, is that it will give you a strong foundation, right? If you wanted to go into information security, cybersecurity, or any other area, these degrees will give you a strong foundation for that. So, yeah,
And
thank you for
many employers actually require degrees, which is also
Absolutely.
controversial, to be honest.
Yes.
But it really was helpful. Having that structure on what to learn, you get to pick out, obviously your electives and whatever, but it really was helpful. And, depending on where you want to work, there are so many options. Like I was saying earlier, there's local government, state government, federal government, private industry, obviously, so many tech companies, new startups. There are so many options, and that having that foundation is how I got where I am. I had an internship. If you're a part of that program, your school should have an internship program, hopefully.
Yes.
And that's how I got where I am. I started at the Office of Mental Health as a wannabe programmer. So, there a year and a half there, and I finally got a job interview someplace else to do a full-time job, and I was super excited. So it yeah, definitely get your foundations.
Yes.
And because the teachers, obviously, Abeba is a former professor of mine and was wonderful in my information science degree in so many ways. You will have support like you would not believe from your academic network as well as your information security network later on.
Thank you so much, Brandy. I'm definitely proud of Brandy. So we're gonna, anybody, Unal or Ule, would you like to add to that or? And I think, Go ahead.
Maybe in some positions it might not be required, but definitely it is very, very useful. So this is very briefly what I can say.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you, Unal. Ule?
Just to foot stomp what has already been said about learning how to learn and how important that is, and just look for resources out there. Lynda.com is great, Udemy, Coursera. There are so many different programs out there, some free, some paid. You can pick whatever you want, but there are so many courses out there where you can start to learn about information security and cybersecurity and the fundamentals that we talked about earlier. And that really helps as a partner to the education that you get from your information science degree in terms of tying those two together. So yeah, definitely be curious and there's, be investigative in terms of what kinds of options are out there to learn about these sorts of topics that we talked about.
Thank you, Ole. Yep. So I'm going to go to Amy's question. Does networking include serverless cloud computing? Anyone can. Yep. So in this, in this day and age where everything is in the cloud, I'm assuming that the answer is yes.
Oh yeah.
Right?
You
Okay.
have to remember there's a little adage for cloud computing. And even though obviously I'm not technical and I jumped in first, cloud computing is nothing else but somebody else's servers. Okay, so you still need to be able to connect to them. You still need to know the protocols and how things are flowing back and forth. Definitely, it will be helpful. Now, it is a different kind of learning. I haven't taken any classes yet, but I was actually looking at some. You still need those basics for cloud computing.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Brandy. Any other additions, Una, you'd like to add?
Cloud computing is lasts for 5 years.
Yes.
Also in textbooks, you can see if it's networking, you can see cloud computing chapter on it and
Yes.
IoT chapter. And so these are inevitable now. If you're learning networking, cloud computing should be there too.
Yep. Thank you, Una. Yep. All right. So let me move to Tammy's question. I think his question is about, I'm looking to getting a PhD in information sciences with a goal to work in the industry and not necessarily academia. Is this doable with research interest in information security? I'm going to go to Unal for this one, and
Yes.
then I can add to you and then go to Brandy and Ule for that. Yep. Go ahead, Ule.
The answer is definitely yes.
Yep.
And when we look at the jobs of the PhD students after they graduate, they mostly go to the private sector or sometimes government, and these are more than academia actually because of the available positions. And in the fields like information security and cybersecurity, believe me, the positions are more many in there are in academia comparing to other fields. Cybersecurity and information security are in high demand for PhD holders. But next to this, I can say that in private sector and government, still there are too many job opportunities and more than academia in this field. So you can get a really good job, high-paying job in this field. This field, cybersecurity, information security, this is a field with zero unemployment at all levels. So a concentration in information security in a doctoral study in information science makes a lot of sense to me, actually. And we here in our university, we have this program. And recently I reviewed what our graduates are doing. All of them have really great jobs. This is what I can say in this concentration area.
Yep. Thank you, Nal. I agree. One of our graduates here at UT Knoxville from a PhD program joined a major bank. So definitely you don't have to be in academia after doing your PhD. I totally agree with you. Yep. Thank you. So let me see if I have, okay, so I have another question from Masha. Do you guys work with iSchools across US to look for people to join your teams? I think this is for Brandy and Ule. Yep.
I have to say that New York State doesn't look for anyone. They have a very particular process that needs to be followed to get a job with New York State, and that is any agency. If you like, I can share a link to the state agency website, and getting in requires, it does require a degree, especially if you're going into the information technology specialist titles. And they have different grades. So we do not hunt outside of New York State. You apply via a test, and I use that term loosely for starting positions because it's really just a survey of experience and education that you fill out for grades 14 and 18. And then, other positions are open competitive that you can apply for via the state website that do not require tests. And like the information security title that was just put up. There are different grades, different requirements for education and certs and all sorts of things. And I will stop so Ulla can answer.
Thank you, Brandy. Yep, Ulla.
Yep, I'll say that we do not specifically look for those coming from iSchools, but we don't look for people from any school, from any particular degree program or school. The key in who we look for and who navigate into this field are based on their interests, their experience, and their skill set. So that could come from an iSchool, or it could come from someone who may not even actually have a college degree. It really varies a lot. It's a very diverse employee field with the folks that I work for. And some are PhDs, some have multiple master's degrees, and some may not even have a bachelor's degree. And it really just comes down to what have they done in the past? What kind of skills do they have? Where do their interests lie? What can they show during that application and interview process? And the story I like to tell on that is my own story in terms of how I got hired at IBM. And I applied to IBM with 15 years of experience with intelligence in the government and 2 master's degrees. And the one thing that my interviewer really keyed in on during the interview was none of that. It was the fact that I had built my own kind of security apparatus on my home network while I was learning about cybersecurity, and he thought that was great that I did that. So you never know in terms of who, what you've done, that's really going to appeal to an interview process. But a lot of it's going to be on what do you kind of do in your spare time? Where do your interests lie? What are you learning about? What are you creating? What are you doing that may not really be tied fundamentally to a degree program? So it really is important that you can talk about those things during the interview process for coming into information security. And I'll rely on Brandy and all in their experience as well, but from mine, being able to have those personal experiences and talk about your own accomplishments and what you've done is probably going to be more important during the interview process than your educational background, just because of how the field is. And I think it's also that real need to hire people coming into information security. There's far more jobs than can be filled that are out there. And so finding people who have the skill set, the experience, the knowledge, regardless of their background, really comes into play.
Yep. Thank you, Ule. I think I should thank the audience for excellent questions. I think they generated really great discussion. So I'm going to give each of you 1 minute to answer the last question before we conclude the session. So what advice would you have for someone taking their first steps moving into an information security career? Yeah. The dog wants to say something, so you have to say something before the dog. So yeah. Anyone. So what advice would you give someone taking their first steps moving? Yep, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think you need to know different avenues in this field. Okay, there are many options, and decide on which one is a better fit for you. Okay, and then start to learn more about this and create a learning plan for this. This is what I can say. Don't jump on one aspect of cybersecurity. As I shared in the link, there are many different venues in this field. So first, based on your personal qualifications and what you want to do, what you enjoy, so decide on which path you want to go. This is what I.
Thank you. Now, Ule or Brandy?
Go ahead, Brandy.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what I would suggest, much what Unal was saying, is figure out what you like. I didn't know I liked vulnerability management. And yeah. I want to reiterate too that you do not have to be technical. I have an English degree, hence my love for documentation. You like policy, you can go into governance, risk, and compliance. There are so many options for you. But I will suggest what I do is push yourself. I do a work study with SANS, and it costs me money, but I get to attend a class and I get to learn from this instructor, and I get to do all this stuff with all these people and help them feel comfortable where they're not. And that makes me feel good, because it's nice to see there are non-technical people jumping into this field that want to learn more and do better and, you know, fight evil, as Sam says. But you can do it, you know, push yourself, and don't be afraid to try those technical classes. You might fail that test. That's okay.
Yeah.
You still learn so much, you know.
Absolutely.
Just put yourself out there and
Absolutely.
and figure it out. You know, it doesn't hurt to be uncomfortable. So get
Yeah.
comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yep. Thank you, Brandy. I have 10 seconds, Uli, for you. So we are almost.
Yeah,
at the end of the
I think
session.
Brandy and Unal
Yeah.
really hit the nail
Yeah.
on the head.
Yeah.
Bite off more than you can chew, and then chew it. Set goals for
Yes.
yourself that are outside of what you think you know you can do, but then you'll be surprised you can do it. And there's so many so many people out there who've already done it that are more than happy to walk you through how to do it. And find those blogs, those articles, those courses, and learn how to do things that you really didn't realize that are really within your grasp. And that really helps build confidence, and then you can move on to the next thing.
That's
Exactly.
true. Thank you. Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed the session. Please join me in thanking our excellent panelists who have done, I think, a great job. And we thank you all for joining us. I hope we answered your questions. And if you have more questions, you can definitely get in touch with our panelists, and enjoy the rest of this fine conference. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you all. Yep. Thank you.